What really happened to Red Rum, the horse that conquered the world's toughest steeplechase and unprecedented 3 times? You might think you know the story of Britain's most beloved racehorse, but here's something that'll blow your mind. Red Rum achieved his greatest triumphs while suffering from a bone disease that should have ended his career before it began. The truth about this magnificent animal reveals something extraordinary. While the racing establishment scoffed at his unconventional training methods and dismissed his working-class trainer, Red Rum was quietly revolutionizing everything we thought we knew about racehorses. Today, we're diving deep into the remarkable true story that made Red Rum a legend who transcended sport itself. Now, before we gallop into the incredible details that made Red Rum a household name across Britain and beyond, let me paint you a picture of just how unlikely this story really was. Cast your mind back. It's 1972 and there's this horse suffering from chronic pedal osteitis. Essentially, the pedal bones in his hooves were inflamed, causing serious lameness. Most horses with this condition end up retired to pasture, living out quiet lives far from the racetrack. Red Rum, and yes, that name spelled backwards is murder, though this was purely coincidental, was bought for 6,000 guineas by Donald Ginger McCain at the Doncaster sales. Now, Ginger wasn't your typical thoroughbred trainer. This guy was a taxi driver and used car salesman who kept his horses in a small yard behind his showroom in Southport. If you're picturing the grand training facilities at Newmarket with their manicured gallops and state-of-the-art equipment, forget it. This was more like running a Formula One team out of your local garage. The horse had already failed as a flat racer and shown only modest ability over jumps. His record before McCain was respectable but hardly spectacular. He'd won 3 races from 10 starts over fences. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is something that shows just how perception can differ from reality in the racing world. Listen up, because I'm about to share something that revolutionized equine training and still influences how horses are conditioned today. And hey, if you're enjoying these fascinating insights into one of racing's greatest stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we've got more incredible sports stories coming your way. But here's the game changer. Ginger McCain did something that made traditional trainers shake their heads in disbelief. He started training Red Rum on Southport Beach, taking advantage of the vast stretches of sand when the tide went out. The horse would canter and gallop through the shallow seawater and across the firm sand. And here's the part that amazed veterinarians. The seawater therapy actually worked to reduce the inflammation in those damaged hooves. The cold salt water acted as a natural anti-inflammatory, while the forgiving surface of the sand reduced impact stress. What McCain discovered through necessity, he couldn't afford fancy facilities, became a masterclass in innovative training. The beach work built different muscles than traditional gallops, strengthening Red Rum's core and improving his balance. The resistance from the sand developed incredible stamina, while the varied terrain taught him to adjust his stride naturally. Today, beach training is recognized as a legitimate conditioning method, but back in 1972, McCain was ridiculed for it. The Grand National at Aintree isn't just any race. It's 4.5 miles of the most challenging jumping test in racing. 30 fences, including fearsome obstacles like Besher's Brook, where horses have to jump and drop simultaneously, and the chair standing at 5 feet 2 inches with a 6-foot wide ditch on the takeoff side. It's like asking someone to ride through an extreme enduro course at full speed, while surrounded by other riders, all vying for the same narrow path. In 1973, Red Rum entered as a 9-to-1 shot, jointly trained by McCain and Tommy Stack riding. The Australian chaser Crisp, carrying 12 pounds less than Red Rum's 10 stone 5 pounds, was the favourite. Crisp set off at a blistering pace, jumping brilliantly and opening up what seemed an unassailable lead. By the second beaches, Crisp led by 20 lengths. Racing commentator Sir Peter O'Sullivan called it one of the most spectacular displays of jumping he'd ever seen. But Red Rum, with Brian Fletcher aboard, kept grinding away, that beach-built stamina serving him perfectly. In the long run from the final fence, Red Rum caught crisp in the shadow of the post, winning by 3/4 of a length in a record time of 9 minutes 1.9 seconds that would stand until 1990. The 1974 Grand National saw Red Rum return as an 11-to-1 shot, now carrying top weight of 12 stone. This time, Brian Fletcher knew his mount's capabilities intimately. They faced another quality field, including Scout, ridden by Tommy Carberry, and Spanish Steps. But Red Rum's jumping was flawless. He led from the second Beshers and held on to win by 7 lengths, becoming the first horse since Reynoldstown in 1935 to 1936 to win consecutive nationals. What made this victory remarkable was how Red Rum had improved. The beach training had transformed him from a horse with stamina into one with tactical speed. Fletcher later revealed that Red Rum could change pace instantly when asked, a quality rare in staying chasers. The horse would actually ease up when in front, conserving energy, then respond immediately when challenged. Between his victories, Red Rum became a celebrity. He opened supermarkets, appeared at charity events, and received fan mail. Ginger McCain estimated they received over 200 letters a week at peak popularity. The horse seemed to understand his celebrity status, posing for photographs and standing patiently while crowds gathered to see him. Now I'm going to share the part of Red Rum's story that actually makes his legend even greater. After Brian Fletcher and McCain had a falling out over riding tactics, Fletcher wanted to hold Red Rum up. McCain preferred front running. Tommy Stack took over the ride in 1975. The 1975 and 1976 Grand Nationals saw Red Rum finish second both times, beaten by L'Escargot and Rag Trade respectively. These weren't failures. They were incredible achievements for a horse now carrying crushing weights of 11 stone 13 pounds and 11 stone 10 pounds. Every other horse in history that had carried such weight in the National had fallen or pulled up. Red Rum completed the course both times, jumping impeccably. Here's a sneak peek at what made these runs remarkable. And stick around because the 1977 comeback will absolutely amaze you. In 1975, Red Rum was actually giving weight to the winner L'Escargot, essentially running with a handicap that would have stopped any normal horse. Stack later said Red Rum jumped every fence perfectly but simply couldn't overcome the weight disadvantage against a quality opponent having the race of his life. By 1977, Red Rum was 12 years old. In human athletic terms, think of a boxer coming back for a title fight in his 40s. The handicapper, taking pity on the old warrior, dropped him to 11 stone 8 pounds. Tommy Stack was back aboard and McCain had Red Rum in the best condition of his life. But here's what nobody expected. The old horse had lost none of his speed. The 1977 Grand National featured quality opponents like Andy Pandy and Churchtown Boy, but Red Rum was different this time. He wasn't just surviving the weights, he was thriving. Stack kept him covered up in mid-division, saving every ounce of energy. At Bescher's second time around, Stack made his move and Red Rum responded like a horse half his age. Coming to the final fence, Red Rum was in front and pulling away. The crowd of 60,000 went absolutely wild. They were witnessing history. He won by 25 lengths, completing an unprecedented treble that has never been equalled. The BBC's commentator Peter O'Sullivan called it the most emotional moment in the history of the Grand National. Let's talk about what really made Red Rum special. The training regime that turned a broken-down horse into a legend. McCain's approach was revolutionary in its simplicity. Every morning at 7 a.m., regardless of weather, Red Rum would walk through the sea for 20 minutes. Then he'd canter on the beach, the distance varying depending on his racing schedule. McCain discovered that Red Rum thrived on routine. The horse knew exactly what was expected each day. Unlike traditional training with its varied gallops and schooling sessions, Red Rum's preparation was methodical and consistent. McCain also realised that Red Rum needed racing to stay interested. He ran him far more often than modern trainers would dare, sometimes twice in a week. The real genius was McCain's observation skills. He noticed that Red Rum's action changed subtly when something was wrong, and he'd immediately ease off training. This attention to detail meant Red Rum was never asked to work through pain, allowing those troublesome hooves to heal gradually while maintaining fitness. Years after the 1977 triumph, Red Rum retired from racing but began a second career that was equally remarkable. He became Britain's most famous animal, invited to switch on Christmas lights, led parades, and even visited number 10 Downing Street. The horse seemed to genuinely enjoy the attention, standing patiently for hours while admirers petted him and took photographs. Red Rum's intelligence shone during these appearances. He learned to pose for cameras, turning his head at just the right angle. At one event, he famously walked up a hotel's red-carpeted stairs to attend a reception, navigating the steps as calmly as if he were walking into his stable. Hotel staff reported he didn't leave a single mark on the carpet. Corporate sponsors paid substantial fees for Red Rum's appearances, with the money going toward his upkeep and local charities. McCain estimated that Red Rum earned more in retirement than he had in prize money during his racing career. Not bad for a horse once deemed too broken to race. The owner behind Red Rum's success deserves proper recognition. Noel Lemaire was an 84-year-old businessman when Red Rum won his first national. He'd dreamed of winning the race since the 1920s and had owned numerous horses without success. His patience and faith in McCain, despite the trainer's unconventional methods, proved crucial. Lemaire's relationship with Red Rum was touching. Despite his age and frailty, he insisted on attending every one of Red Rum's races. After the 1973 victory, Lemaire said it was the greatest moment of his life. He lived to see all 3 Grand National victories, passing away in 1980 at age 91, having realised his lifelong dream 3 times over. What's particularly admirable about Lemaire was his hands-off approach. Despite owning the horse, he never interfered with McCain's training methods, even when other advisors suggested more conventional approaches. This trust between owner and trainer created the perfect environment for Red Rum to thrive. Let me share something genuinely remarkable about Red Rum's physiology. When veterinarians examined him after retirement, they found that his heart was significantly larger than average for a thoroughbred. Not abnormally so, but at the upper end of the range. This larger heart could pump more blood per beat, delivering oxygen more efficiently to his muscles during those grueling national runs. His bone structure had also adapted remarkably to the beach training. The constant work on varied surfaces had increased bone density in his legs, making them incredibly strong despite the initial pedal osteitis. X-rays taken late in his life showed that while the original inflammation markers were still visible, the bones had remodeled themselves around the damage, creating a unique but functional structure. Red Rum's muscle composition was analysed by equine sports scientists in the 1980s. They found an unusually high proportion of slow-twitch muscle fibres, which are essential for endurance. This adaptation, likely developed through the resistance training on sand, gave him the ability to maintain speed over the Nationals' extreme distance when other horses faded. The numbers behind Red Rum's career are staggering. He ran in the Grand National 5 consecutive times, itself a record. His placings read first, first, second, second, first. No other horse has come close to this consistency in the world's toughest steeplechase. He jumped 150 Grand National fences in those 5 runs and never fell once. His career statistics show 100 races total with 24 wins. His prize money exceeded £120,000, substantial for the 1970s. But the economic impact went far beyond prize money. Red Rum's victories generated millions in betting turnover and tourism revenue for Aintree and Southport. Attendance at the Grand National increased by 40% during his era. Speaking of impact, Red Rum saved the Grand National itself. In the early 1970s, the race was in decline, with Aintree Racecourse facing possible closure and redevelopment. Red Rum's popularity brought new sponsors, television coverage, and public interest that revitalised the event. Today's Grand National, watched by 600 million people worldwide, owes its survival partly to one remarkable horse. The final years and peaceful end Red Rum enjoyed 18 years of retirement, living until the remarkable age of 30. He spent his final years at Ginger McCain's yard in Southport, where he received visitors daily. Even in old age, he maintained his dignified bearing and gentle temperament. Children could pet him safely, and he seemed to particularly enjoy their attention. On October 18, 1995, Red Rum died peacefully in his stable. McCain found him in the morning. The horse had suffered a stroke during the night. There was no suffering, no long decline. He simply went to sleep and didn't wake up. For a horse who had given so much joy to millions, it was a merciful end. The decision to bury him at Aintree near the winning post was immediate and unanimous. The racecourse closed for the day of his funeral, with thousands attending to pay their respects. McCain gave a eulogy that had hardened racing professionals in tears. A life-sized bronze statue was later erected, showing Red Rum jumping the final fence, forever capturing that moment of triumph. Red Rum's influence on horse racing extends beyond his victories. His success prompted serious research into alternative training methods. Beach training, once ridiculed, is now standard practice for many trainers dealing with horses with leg problems. The use of hydrotherapy and swimming pools in equine training centres can be traced directly back to Red Rum's seawater rehabilitation. His celebrity status also changed how racing marketed itself. Before Red Rum, racehorses were largely known only to racing enthusiasts. He proved that horses could become mainstream celebrities, paving the way for later equine stars like Desert Orchid and Kauto Star. Racing learned to embrace personality and story, not just performance. The welfare standards in racing also improved, partly due to Red Rum's example. His longevity and successful retirement showed that racehorses could have fulfilling lives after racing. This led to better retirement planning and aftercare programs that continue to evolve today. The shocking truth is that reality surpasses any need for embellishment. Here was a horse with chronic hoof problems, trained by a taxi driver on a beach, owned by an elderly dreamer who conquered the world's toughest race 3 times and became more famous than most human athletes. Red Rum proved that greatness doesn't always come from privilege or perfect circumstances. Sometimes it comes from innovation born of necessity and the unbreakable bond between a horse and the people who believed in him. McCain's unconventional methods weren't mysterious. They were practical solutions that happened to be genius. What made Red Rum truly special wasn't just his athletic ability, but his character. He understood occasion, rose to challenges, and connected with people in ways that transcended sport. His story reminds us that the most incredible tales are often the true ones. If you enjoyed discovering the real story behind racing's greatest legend, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. We've got more incredible sports stories coming your way where truth really is stranger than fiction. Drop a comment below sharing what surprised you most about Red Rum's story. Until next time, remember that sometimes heroes really do exist, and sometimes they have 4 legs. Most about Red Rum's story. Until next time, remember that sometimes heroes really do exist, and sometimes they have 4 legs.